Let's go. Yo. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Man, I'm like a rookie tonight. How's it going, guys? Welcome to Monsters of the Madhouse, Chicago Sports Podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate you guys. We're talking about the Bears. We're talking about the coaching search. And we're talking to you as well. So thank you, guys. You can like and subscribe on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel. And I am here with my buddy, Brad LaRoe. Brad, what's going on, man? It's good to see you tonight.
How you doing, brother? Yeah, I'm doing good. It's a nice Wednesday night, halfway through the week.
Yeah, man, I'm ready to talk about this. We're a couple of days after the season's over with, and here we are. We are knee deep in the coaching search, and we've got like 100 names to talk about, Brad, because that's what it feels like right now. It feels like there's 100 freaking names out there. Like we're literally talking to everybody, which is I thought we were going to be like maybe like 8 or 9, but here we are. We're like 15, 16. It's going to keep. I feel like it's just going to keep growing. I feel like my number's off right now. It might be even more.
Yeah, it's like every hour another name pops up. Crazy.
So yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, right? Like every time you look at your phone, there's another update.
Right.
So guys, the first one that the one that's the most intriguing to me is Mike Vrabel, because I've been talking a lot on this show. And if you watch some of our past shows, which you can do on our YouTube channel, on our YouTube page, Mike Vrabel's always been number one on my list. But and the Bears tweeted out earlier today that they completed their interview with Mike Vrabel. That was no surprise, as that was one of the first names that we heard about that they were going to reach out to. He goes out to New England tomorrow, Brad. It is very hard for me to believe that unless something bearing a miracle here, he doesn't leave New England, unless he leaves New England and goes a couple of days later, but he's probably going to be the head coach of the New England Patriots, unless he has got his connections with the Vegas Raiders, which their job just opened up yesterday with Antonio Pierce. So that one could be an interesting one as well. But to me, Brad, as much as I want him here, and this job could be intriguing to him, and I guess we'll find out a little bit more, I think I think that New England job is all his.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think something that might screw it over for the Bears a little bit is the Rooney Rule, because the Patriots got that out of the way today. Like they did their outside interviews that they had to do to cover that, the standard that the league set, which is great. And but it's kind of bad timing for us and good timing for them, because like I said, we interviewed him today and they interviewed him tomorrow, and they got those 2 interviews out of the way that cover that rule. So, they could have a contract signed tomorrow for him.
You know what? The Patriots did not waste any time at all. Where I feel like our job has been open for 6 weeks now, 7 weeks. It's been open for a while. They literally, after their 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, I'm at Eastern time. I always say 1 o'clock, but 12 o'clock game. After their game on Sunday, I don't think it even lasted till like halftime of the afternoon games, where you started seeing the reports where Gerard Mayo was out of there, and they started right away, dude. Like they had their plan in place, and I think this is like part of their plan, kind of to what you referenced there, Brad, about the Rudy Rule and the guys they interviewed. That was Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich, the first 2 guys they talked to, and then the guy we're going to talk about in a minute, Ben Johnson, is going to interview with them on Friday. And I think that's an interesting one, because I really do believe it's between Vrabel and Johnson for that team as well. Just like the Bears, I feel like it's those two. I feel like those are the 2 leading guys, but it's going to be very difficult. Now, I think the wild card here is going to be the Raiders. So what are the Raiders going to do? Are Tom Brady and Mike Vrabel close? I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. So I don't know what the response was, but I also heard that as far as the Raiders, that Tom Brady reached out to Bill Belichick to see where he was at on kind of skipping out on North Carolina and just coming back to the NFL to coach them. So, obviously they want somebody from his roots.
And that's an interesting concept too, because I saw that reported all over the place today.
Yeah.
I don't know what's true or what's not true. I have a hard time for me to believe that he'd even leave North Carolina right now, and after just getting there.
It'd be so weird.
Oh man, but if the Raiders can do it, man, they certainly can. Guys in our chat room, I see Sean Lugo. Man, I love Sean. He's awesome. Crooked Commish, man. He was on our show last week. Good dude. Yeah. So thank you for tuning in tonight. We got the Chicago Sports Podcast in the chat room as well. To everybody that is leaving a comment, joining in the show tonight, thank you guys so much. Plank is in there as well. Thank you, Plank, for watching tonight. And everybody else. Monsters of the Madhouse, Chicago Sports Podcast. We're talking about updates here on the coaching search. We're talking about Mike Vrabel. We talked about the Patriots tomorrow. Okay, so I think we kind of put the dots together there. Ben Johnson's the other one. So, Brad, I don't know about you, but I think the two guys that I think they're really out of the 100 people that they're interviewing right now, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, to me are the two that are at the top. So Ben Johnson will get the interview. That is going to be on Saturday. Now, Friday, he's going to interview with the Patriots. So if we are lead to believe, like, let's say tomorrow it's over with, Mike Vrabel gets out, there's nothing done, Ben Johnson comes in on Friday. To me, I would think that it's going to be between those two. Maybe that their management, Robert Kraft, that's their owner, is going to be looking more into Ben Johnson. But for the Chicago Bears to get that interview on Saturday, I think this is going to be an important one because I feel like his name has been leaked now for the past year. And I just feel like this is the match. I feel like those two are the match to make this happen. Now, are they going to make that happen is the question.
Yeah. The thing I don't like about the Saturday interview and what I've read from reports and stuff is that Johnson's not really good at interviews. He's kind of like an awkward person, is what I've heard and read. And I know I've done video interviews before for a job, and it's so awkward. It's probably the weirdest thing you'll ever do. And like I just hope that doesn't affect the Bears' thoughts of him. Hopefully, he's able to crush that as well.
You know, you bring up a good point, Brad, because I think any of us can relate to that. I've had a lot of Zoom interviews too over the last couple of years, and there's just a huge difference when you're talking on Zoom with management and you got the higher ups, and there's like maybe one of them in one box, and you got another one over like to the other side, and then on the other side, and then you guys are all kind of going back and forth, but you're not trying to talk over each other. It's like I feel like you're in your own setting, but you're not because you're not with them. There's something different when you're with them in person.
Yeah, you can't read body language as well. That's like even this. I mean, with delay over video chats and stuff, even with like perfect internet, you got a little bit of like delay and lag, and so you can't read the other person's body language to know when they're about to talk, and then you start talking over each other, and it's just weird. So
yeah,
hopefully none of that affects his interview.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I never hear that about Ben Johnson. Obviously, I hear about the coaching of him. You hear about his offensive genius. Heck, we see it. We've seen it a couple of times here as the Lions take with the Bears, and I watch a lot of the NFL every week, and you see a lot of his play calling. But what you don't hear a lot about is the type of personality is outside of the field. So I have no idea about a lot of these guys. You hear a little bit the same thing with Mike Vrabel. You hear about Mike Vrabel that he's a funny guy, that he likes to joke around a lot, but then just like that, he changes. Like he changes right away. He goes into like a serious mode, and that's what makes him a great football coach, and that's why he's so coveted and so many people want it right now. I see Darius checking in. Darius, what's up, dude? Darius, by the way, did a show earlier today that you guys can check out on our YouTube channel, YouTube page. You can like and subscribe. Darius is a good dude, and you'll find him very entertaining. We got Bears Yard checking in as well. A lot of people talking about Ben Johnson in here. Chicago Sports Podcast talking about all these interviews will be in person eventually too. So here's what we got to specify too. The reason why some of these are virtual right now is because the Lions are still in the playoffs, so they can't meet in person right now. They have to do them virtually, and they have a time limit. I don't know the exact time limit, Brad. I think it starts either today or tomorrow, and then it either ends on Saturday. I think the last one's got to be done by Saturday, but you cannot meet in person.
Yeah, I believe so. I think they had to have that 7-day between the game and the interview and the game. So, yeah, I think it has to be done tomorrow.
And that's why a lot of these guys that are in the playoffs right now are getting those chances that have the bye week. So that's why you see on the Chiefs side, which we saw Matt Nagy earlier today. We're not talking about Matt Nagy, Brad, but we saw him get an interview with the Jets. But that's the reason why you see his name popping up right now. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, maybe we'll get him a second interview. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I can't give anybody a heart attack tonight. Okay, so we went over Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson. Those are the two that I think are leading the way, that I think are the favorites right now. The one that's interesting, and it's interesting because, Brad, we were talking a little bit about this. I'm going to pull this up here in a second on my phone. But Mike McCarthy, and we were talking before we jumped on tonight. I saw Ian Rappaport. This is a little over an hour ago. He literally tweeted out NFL Network Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy and the Joneses are still talking, a sign that they want to continue to work together. Meanwhile, McCarthy will have interest if he becomes free on January 14th, which he'll be able to, and he'll get that interest. So for me, this one was pretty much over with when, I'm not going to say pretty much, but a good possibility it was over with when they denied the permission for him to talk to the Bears, because I feel like, okay, they're going to do everything they can now to keep him in Dallas. And I think he actually did a very good job in Dallas for everything that goes on down there, for all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and Jerry Jones. I actually think in all the injuries that team had this year, I didn't think that roster was constructed like the way it should be, and I still thought they were competitive. I think Mike McCarthy's a good coach. However, with that being said, Brad, I think the chances are very low right now that they get him out of Dallas.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. I mean, if they're still in talks and they're denying interviews, which honestly, my first thought was maybe that was Mike McCarthy that didn't want the interview. I think as a good owner, which I feel like Jerry Jones is a good owner too as coach, as far as like personal relationship. He does a lot of stupid stuff, but I feel like that would be something you would ask the coach, like, "Hey, are you interested in interviewing for this job?" So that was my first thought is like, what if it was Mike that was like, "I'm never going to be the Bears coach." We know he was a
And I know
Packer.
and I know a lot of his coaches, his assistant coaches I read today are free to go too. They can
Mhm.
go free to like seek other jobs and see what else is out there. But I think Mike McCarthy, I think if this doesn't get done in Dallas, not only is it going to be the Bears, I think of these other these job openings that are up right now, I think he's going to get a lot of interest for this. For what he did. Here's what I think too. If you kind of read between the tea leaves of Jerry Jones last year, Brad, I don't know, maybe you've seen some of his. I mean, he talks after every game, but I kind of felt, especially at the end of the season, that the compassion was there, that he was leaning more towards keeping him. Like there wasn't anything in there that I saw that I was like, maybe he doesn't want to get rid of him. Maybe he sees something in him, or maybe he
Mhm.
would have gotten rid of him a year ago if he really felt that strongly about making a coaching change.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, if he really wanted to get rid of him, it would have probably been last year. It wouldn't have been, let's let him sit on a lame contract and hope we can work something out at the end of the next year. I think it was last year was the decision, and he decided this year was a wash for him. I mean, obviously with their Pro Bowl quarterback getting hurt, that's going to affect any team in a negative way. And like you said, I think he did what he could with the roster that was left. CeeDee Lamb was hurt all year, so yeah, I mean, he did what he could with the roster that was left, and it wasn't that bad.
And Darius brings up a point here in the chat too, talking about quarterback development and understands an O-line. Talk about Cooper Rush as the backup quarterback. I thought he did yeah, and Chicago Sports just says the same thing. Look what he did with you. Just reading
Yeah.
my mind there. Look what he did with Cooper Rush. I thought Cooper Rush played very well, well enough that I think he could be getting looked at as a starting quarterback at certain teams next year. So
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, or what his contract situation looks like. But that's what Mike McCarthy did in Dallas. I think he did a great job for everything that he went through.
Mhm.
That'll be interesting to wait to see what happens here over the next couple of days or to the 14th if he's out and we're able to talk to him, because I think that would be a big name. I think on top of the first two names we talked about, I think he'd be right up there too. Thank you guys for watching tonight, the Monsters of the Madhouse Chicago Sports Podcast. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, our YouTube page. We got shows all the time that you can go back and watch. And then comes to Pete Carroll. And Brad, again, we were talking a little bit about his name before the show. He's got the interview tomorrow. And I saw you referenced that the interview is going to happen tomorrow with Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about Pete Carroll, listen, I like all of his accomplishments and everything that he's done in the NFL. He did great things in Seattle with Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom and all those teams that they put together in the 2000s. He's 73 years old. Now, listen, if you're a good coach, age, fine, whatever, 73. But I think what a lot of people would have a question about is how long would you be able to do this at 73 years old? Realistically, how long would you be able to coach for? And I would say is if you hire a guy like Pete Carroll, I think what you would have to do is make sure he's got the right coaching staff that's underneath him, the right coaching staff, and then you would have somebody probably waiting in the wing or somebody that you'd build up that would maybe want to take over for Pete Carroll in the future. I think you would have to have some type of conversation like that. I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's something you would have to think about if you hire a guy like Pete Carroll in his age.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you hire somebody with the age like that, and I've made it very clear, I like Pete Carroll. I like him for our job. I like him for any job. He's an NFL coach that's well accomplished. You kind of have to set a standard. We want somebody, and we want you to bring somebody in behind you that, could take over for you when you're done. That way we don't leave our team in shambles again. Like, I know it was the Bears' fault with Lovey, but cutting him loose. But when Lovey was cut loose and it just left the Bears in shambles. We didn't have anybody to, what do you call it, predecessor after him?
Predecessor, yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have anybody come after him, so that's what you got to do with a guy like Pete Carroll. It's, he's healthy for his age, it seems. I actually just sent
he looks
Trax a
great
video today. Yeah, I sent him a video Trax a video today of Pete slinging the ball, and it was like 15 months ago, and he's out on the practice field throwing the ball up against NFL players. So I think that's pretty healthy, and that's only not even 2 years ago.
Listen, if there's any guy that could live to 90 years old, he kind of actually reminds me of my grandma who died at 89 and at 86 was still on her farm in Indiana cutting the grass and doing everything that she shouldn't be doing. If there's anybody that can do that, I think Pete Carroll is the guy that can do that. Be that guy at like 78, 79 years old, still be on the football field and look great.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
By the way, we all know who you do know who Pete Carroll's offensive coordinator was on his last year with
Yeah,
the Seattle Seahawks, right? Do I need to go there? Do I need to go there? I'm just saying. I'm like, you do know who his offensive coordinator was, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, doesn't that say more about him? I mean, doesn't it say more good about him than it does bad in my eyes?
Yeah,
Because it's like we seen what he was here. He is just garbage. So I mean, how good that Seattle offense looked, that had to have been Pete, right? I
yeah,
mean,
that,
it
that,
had to have
that.
been his doing. Because
So Shane Wal-
I'm not for this. He's a defensive guy. He's an offensive guy. If they're an NFL head coach, they know offense and defense.
That's Shane. By the way, if people not knowing, it's Shane Waldron. That was his offensive coordinator. That's why I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. If there's any guy that can bring out the best of his coaches, it would be Pete Carroll. It'd be Pete
Mhm.
Carroll and his coaching staff. And he's so good, and he's been so good for so many years. Out last year, and we'll see if he gets back in the game this year, and see if he ends up anywhere. See if he ends up with us, and we don't know the answer to
Yeah.
that. So, we'll update you on the coaching search here, the Chicago Bears coaching search that's underway right now amongst some other teams. And you guys can keep track here on Chicago Sports Podcast as we're going to be talking about that pretty much every day leading up to new breaking news and everything going on with our coaching search right now. Also today, the Bears signed the following. They signed future reserve contracts to 9 different players, and a couple on here too. The ones that I recognize, the ones I saw right away. John Jackson is because the first thing that I thought of when I saw him was Hard Knocks.
Mhm.
Going back to watching Hard Knocks. But a couple others, I guess. I'll go over the list here just really quickly, and you can tell me, Brad, who stands out to you and who looks out for you. All right. So I'm looking at Theo Benedict, Chris Glazer, John Jackson, Carl Jones, Jamari Chroma, Austin Reed, Ricky Stromberg, Samori Tora, and Joel Wilson. Yes, any of those stand out to you? Any of those, especially I think our tight end position too.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we're going to have to look at next year. We got a lot of positions to look at next year, but I think that is something too that we'll be looking at, and that one also stood out to me.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Tight end's going to be a big key for us figuring that second, maybe even third guy out, depending on how many tight ends they want to have in the room. Because there's no reason to bring Lewis back, and I don't see Everett staying around. I hope they cut him. He's just a contract that we don't need. He produced nothing. But Austin Reed, obviously, he stands out from Hard Knocks, and Canadian Eagles, Theo, he stands out. He's an interior O lineman that I believe showed some promise, and then was injured pretty early with a groin or something of that nature.
He was, yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's obviously the weakest part of our O line, and if he can produce anything for us, that's a win to bring him back in and give him a shot. And then obviously Tyson Bagent's on the last year of his rookie contract because how late he was a free agent signing, so he's only on a 3-year deal. He's not on the standard 4-year rookie contract. So we got to look for somebody for after him because chances are he's probably gone after this year too. So
especially with a new coach.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good possibility, especially when you get a new head coach in here and trying to figure out where he wants to go from here. By the way, when we talk about reserve and future contracts, because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. So that gives the Bears the rights to a player who was not on the 53-man roster at the end of last year. So now they can have them, and then they can be back on the practice squad for the following season, which a lot of teams do that at this time of the year when it comes to the future and reserve players. Coaching search. So also there was one more name too. I forgot to mention, Brad, before we start wrapping things up here. Drew Petzing of the Arizona Cardinals tonight. I think that was tonight. Tonight they were doing the. I believe that was tonight that they were doing the interview with him, and he's an interesting one too because this is going to be his first time go around. He was with Mike Zimmer for the longest time with the Vikings, so there's ties right there with him and Kevin Warren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back in Minnesota, they all were together. So Jonathan Gannon, as a head coach of the Cardinals, was also with the Vikings. They were all together. So I feel like this is a good first time go around, and the offense for the Cardinals looked very good, especially at the end of the season last year. You saw some big numbers there from Kyler Murray. So I think if not for this time around, this is a guy that you could see in the future getting some of those interviews.
Yeah, I think his offense ranked like top 5 in rushing and top half of the league in passing, and then overall was like 18th or 12th or something like that. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt, I guess. But obviously, he's not in most of ours or really any of our top 3 to 4 or 5 candidates. There, at least he wasn't until the name was released. Maybe some people kind of fall in love with it, but yeah, I mean, as far as offense, he his team wasn't too bad this year.
No, and Kyler Murray, I thought, looked very good, especially at the end of the year. I mean, he looked good against us, if you guys remember when he played us.
Yeah.
And the way they read the football. James Conner, too, the running back and the running situation. I think eventually, if you look at everything that they say down there, too, in Arizona, this is a guy that maybe if it doesn't happen this year, that could eventually be a head coach within the next year or two for Drew Petzing. So keep an eye on that. All the coaching-related certs. So you guys can follow along here, Monsters of the Madhouse, Chicago Sports Podcast, as we'll keep you up to date with everything going on with the Chicago Bears and their coaching search. And as we get ready here, too, for the weekend and the playoffs. And then tomorrow morning, you can watch Trax. He is going to have his show tomorrow morning, Coffee with Trax, and he's going to talk about a surprise candidate added to the coaching search. And he is going to go over that and talk to you guys about that and go over everything. As if not that surprise candidate, there's gonna be more candidates added to this. I think so, Brad.
Yeah. It seems like the list is just gonna keep growing. I mean, polls made it clear there's gonna be a lot of surprises to fans, and I guess as long as the Lions are playing and they can't interview Johnson or Glenn, and McCarthy's unsure on what's happening with him, I guess might as well do interviews, right?
Yes, yeah. Get the broad and get the spectrum of everything going on, man. Get the right guy. We gotta get the right guy. We can't get the wrong one this time. We've had too much of a history with that. So thank you guys so much for watching. We got Dustin Jones just checking in too. What up, man? And Ray in there. Thank you guys in the chat too. We can't thank you enough, man, in the chat tonight. And thank you guys for all your support for Monsters of the Madhouse. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel on our YouTube page. And make sure you listen to Trax tomorrow morning, Coffee with Trax, talking about the surprise candidate for the Bears coaching search. So for Brad LaRoe, Brad, you have a good rest of your night, man, and let's do it again next week.
You too, brother. Bear down.
All right, bear down, guys. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your night.